speculating about the capital. If you have anything to tell us, that would be great. How concerned are you? Because let me tell you, honestly, when I see certain things about America, in some parts, I don't want to exaggerate, there is a demonization of America.
Absolutely.
It's becoming like a new religion, and like a new religion that has new converts, like a new religion that has its own high priests,
right.
its own even religious text.
Right.
And in the last, since 9/11, and because of Iraq, that alienation, you know, is wider between the Americans and in generations past, the United States was held high. It was the only Western power with no colonial legacy.
Right.
I mean, how concerned are you? And because people sense that you have a different political discourse, and I think, judging by what Al-Qaeda says, Zawahiri and Osama bin Laden and all these, that chorus.
They seem nervous.
They seem very nervous, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, tell me why they should be more nervous.
Well, I think that when you look at the rhetoric that they've been using against me, before I even took office,
I know.
What that tells me is that their ideas are bankrupt.
Absolutely.
There's no actions that they've taken that say a child in the Muslim world is getting a better education because of them, or has better health care because of them. In my inauguration speech, I spoke about you will be judged on what you build, not what you destroy. And what they've been doing is destroying things. And over time, I think the Muslim world has recognized that that path is leading no place, except more death and destruction. Now, my job is to communicate the fact that the United States has a stake in the well-being of the Muslim world, that the language we use has to be language of respect. You know, I have Muslim members of my family. I have lived in Muslim countries.
The largest one.
The largest one, Indonesia. And so what I want to communicate is the fact that in all my travels throughout the Muslim world, what I've come to understand is that regardless of your faith, and America is a country of Muslim, Jews, Christians, non-believers, regardless of your faith, people all have certain common hopes and common dreams. And my job is to communicate to the American people that the Muslim world is filled with extraordinary people who simply want to live their lives and see their children live better lives. My job to the Muslim world is to communicate that the Americans are not your enemy. We sometimes make mistakes. We have not been perfect. But if you look at the track record, as you say, America was not born as a colonial power, and that the same respect and partnership that America had with the Muslim world as recently as 20 or 30 years ago, there's no reason why we can't restore that. And that, I think, is going to be an important task. But ultimately, people are going to judge me not by my words, but by my actions and my administration's actions. And I think that what you will see over the next several years is that I'm not going to agree with everything that some Muslim leader may say or what's on a television station in the Arab world. But I think that what you'll see is somebody who is listening, who is respectful, and who is trying to promote the interests not just of the United States, but also ordinary people who right now are suffering from poverty and a lack of opportunity. I want to make sure that I'm speaking to them as well.
Any decision on from where you will be addressing the Muslim world, or is it too
well,
early?
you know, I'm not going to break the news right here.
Maybe next time.
But maybe next time. But it is something that's going to be important.
True.
I want people to recognize, though, that we are going to be making a series of initiatives. Us sending George Mitchell to the Middle East is fulfilling my campaign promise that we're not going to wait till the end of my administration to deal with Palestinian and Israeli peace. We're going to start now. It may take a long time to do, but we're going to do now. We're going to follow through on our commitment for me to address the Muslim world from a Muslim capital. We are going to follow through on many of my commitments to do a more effective job of reaching out, listening as well as speaking to the Muslim world. And you're going to see me following through with dealing with a drawdown of troops in Iraq so that Iraqis can start taking more responsibility. And finally, I think you've already seen a commitment in terms of closing Guantanamo and making clear that even as we are decisive in going after terrorist organizations that would kill innocent civilians, that we're going to do so on our terms, and we're going to do so respecting the rule of law that I think makes America great.
President Bush framed the war on terror conceptually in a way that was very broad, war on terror, and he used sometimes certain terminology that alienated many people, Islamofascism.
Right.
You've always framed it in a different way, specifically against one group called Al-Qaeda and their collaborators. And is this one way of...
I think that you're making a very important point. And that is that the language we use matters. And what we need to understand is that there are extremist organizations, whether Muslim or any other faith in the past, that will use faith as a justification for violence. We cannot paint with a broad brush a faith as a consequence of the violence that is done in that faith's name. And so you will, I think, see our administration be very clear in distinguishing between organizations like Al-Qaeda that espouse violence, espouse terror, and act on it, and people who may disagree with my administration in certain actions or may have a particular viewpoint in terms of how their countries should develop. We can have legitimate disagreements, but still be respectful. I cannot respect terrorist organizations that would kill innocent civilians, and we will hunt them down. But to the broader Muslim world, what we are going to be offering is a hand of friendship.
Will the United States ever live with a nuclear Iran? And if not, how far are you going in that, in direction of preventing that?
You know, I said during the campaign that it is very important for us to make sure that we are using all the tools of U.S. power, including diplomacy, in our relationship with Iran. Now, the Iranian people are a great people. The Persian civilization is a great civilization. Iran has acted in ways that's not conducive to peace and prosperity in the region. Their threats against Israel, their pursuit of a nuclear weapon which could potentially set off an arms race in the region that would make everybody less safe. Their support of terrorist organizations in the past. None of these things have been helpful. But I do think that it is important for us to be willing to talk to Iran, to express very clearly where our differences are, but where there are potential avenues for progress. And we will, over the next several months, be laying out our general framework and approach. And as I said during my inauguration speech, if countries like Iran are willing to unclench their fist, they will find an extended hand from us.
Sir, I really appreciate it.